Welcome to the Business Over a Brew podcast, the show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders, all while enjoying a nice brew from the Great Rivers Tap and Grill inside the Best Western Premier Hotel in Alton. Today, our guest is Jason Brunaugh, the owner and president of Brunaugh Construction in Godfrey. We'll talk about his drive to provide the best quality for his clients and how family and athletics have played a key role in his success. So let's get to it. It's the Business Over a Brew podcast from the Great Rivers Tap and Grill. Welcome to Business Over a Brew. Pleased to be joined in this episode by Jason Brunaugh with Brunaugh Construction. Jason, thanks for coming on Business Over a Brew.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Tell us a little bit about, you've got a great construction business in the area. Just let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, I'm glad that you think that about us. I appreciate that. I grew up in going to Jerseyville. So I grew up in Jersey County, and my mother and father had a big influence on me growing up. I think they had a lot of good features that got me to the foundation where I am today. My dad, worked hard and taught me that to do things right. And my mother was very creative and had a lot of faith. And so that really got me started off on the right foot with what I'm doing today.
So you got kind of both sides of it, and that maybe both sides you need in the construction business, a little creativity, but the hard work as well. What did your dad do for a living?
He worked for Widman Construction.
Okay.
And Widman Construction was a family business.
Right.
My grandfather started the business. And then my uncle took over for my grandfather, and my cousin Travis runs it today. And
that's interesting now because that's actually where your new location is, right next door, essentially, right?
Yeah, we actually are converting my grandfather's house into commercial space, which is attached to the business. So it's a good location for us. It's going to be a good permanent home.
So you grew up in Jerseyville. Were you a good student in school?
I was, National Honor Society and varsity basketball athlete.
Okay, so better than me. Nobody ever asked me, so that's probably a good thing. So where'd you go after from high school? Where'd you go?
I got a scholarship to play basketball. Okay. Went to Arkansas Tech University in Russellville, Arkansas. So I spent 2 years there before coming home. Did a semester at SIUE and then went right into construction.
What was it like being a college athlete and trying to balance athletics with academics, and then probably being away from the first time?
Sure,
that's a challenge.
It was. It was a job. You really are. They take all of your time. Everything that you're doing is usually planned and scheduled, even your off days. So a lot of learning time management. I think that's helpful today even.
Because when you play high school basketball, certainly there's a commitment there and there's an effort, but college is a whole other story in terms of just being a year-round sport.
Loved basketball. It was my life in high school. That's all I wanted to do. That's the reason why I went to college. I probably would have stayed if they'd had a major that was better suited for me. But I went to play basketball. I loved the sport.
Right. So came back from Arkansas, and then what?
Tried a semester at school, and without playing any sports, that was tough. So I went part-time at SIUE while I started working in a subdivision in Godfrey. So Mike Wickenhauser used to build homes in Summerfield subdivision off Pierce Lane.
So that was kind of your introduction, or were you?
It was.
Obviously, you probably had a little bit of introduction to it growing up.
It was my introduction to building homes. I was always around construction.
Right.
Every summer, I usually worked for the family business and spent time on the job sites with my dad. But my first introduction to building homes and that type of construction was Summerfield subdivision.
So a couple questions based on that. What would your dad have you do around the job sites?
Usually he'd put me with one of the laborers. So I was he ran projects for the bike trail to Grafton.
Okay.
And also the extension on the Beltline to Broadway. So when the overpass on Albee was the first day on the job, and I was there that summer when they were building the overpasses and that. And so he'd put me with a laborer, usually the grunt work, and he probably did that so I would want to go do something else in my life.
Didn't work though, did it?
It didn't. No, I always loved construction.
Yeah. So then, when you were working in Godfrey and with Wickenhauser, what were some of your roles there?
I started as a cleanup guy because it was just summer work.
Right.
And I remember the foreman at the time, he said, "Do you want to do this your whole life, or are you just here for the summer?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just here for the summer." And I ended up staying full time.
And he said, "Good, you don't want to do this. You don't want to
Exactly.
be like me." And
He wanted to know if he needed to train me or not.
Right. Yeah.
But I ended up staying with Mike for at least 3 years and got into finished carpentry. And then from that point, I got a job offer at Jun Construction.
Okay. And what'd you do for John?
Jun Construction, I started as kind of a project manager apprentice. I worked under PJ Jun mostly. And so they were looking for a younger guy that they could train the way that they wanted. And it was a great opportunity. It gave me the ability to do what I'm doing today.
So what led to the decision? Has running your own business always been something you kind of grew up with that? So has that always been an aspiration of yours?
I think so. I don't like admitting this, but the last college course I took was a night course in business marketing, and they talked about being an entrepreneur. And he talked about that most entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs don't necessarily. It's not based on their schooling. It's based on their inner drive.
Right.
And so, growing up with my grandfather and my uncle running a business and being very successful at it gave me a lot of good goals to set for myself, and really what I'm shooting for today.
So take us back to day one. You've made the decision to start your own business. What's day one like?
I worked for Jun Construction for 13 years, and I was happy there. And I just got to a point that I couldn't go any further in the company, not being a family member or an owner of the business.
Right.
And so you have to make that choice. When I got to that stage that there was no more real growth opportunity there for me, I left on good terms and still have a great relationship with the Juns, and they're a great company. But day one was exciting and scary all in one.
Right.
Because
you go from probably making a pretty good living with John to
no guarantee.
We have nothing here. I mean, basically, we're starting from scratch. So.
It's all based on you selling that next job.
And you're married with kids. Were you married at the time that you started the business?
I was. So we started the business in 2014, and my wife and I got married in 2000. So we'd been married a while.
So when you go in and say, "Honey, I've decided I'm gonna," or how did that conversation go? You probably didn't say, "I decided." You probably said, "What do you think about starting our own business?"
She didn't grow up the way I did.
Right.
So she was more nervous than I was, but she made a good statement. She said, "You've never failed at anything in your life, so I trust you."
Oh, that's good. That's nice to have that support behind you. And when you're starting off in the business, to know you've got somebody in your corner, and also to have some success to fall back on. So
definitely helpful to have support, and my family and still to this day, PJ Jun has been a great mentor and a great support system with anything I need.
What are some things that you learned from PJ that you still utilize today?
A lot. He was very open when I worked there. He didn't just treat me like an employee. They allowed me to be part of a lot of decision making and seeing how a company is run. On the financial side, I'd say that's very important. Not only learning how to manage a job site and the accounting for the job, but the business as a whole. He was very open and always answered any question I had and brought me into those kind of things. So learning how to run the company financially and manage cash flow is very huge for a construction company.
Well, one thing I've found in our working together is that you're very reliable in terms of just showing up on time and doing what you say, which is, less and less of a commodity these days. So where did that come from? And that's obviously I think part of your culture with your company as well.
Sure, it's important to me. Definitely got that a lot from my dad to start. He's probably one of the most dependable people that I know. Never missed work, never sick, always on time and prepared. So I got started at an early age, and definitely something that I carry on as a priority, passing it on to my employees, making sure that we respect the people we're working for.
You've been around, we're at the 5-year mark or past the 5-year mark?
It'll be 5 years this August.
5 years in August. So what are some milestones, some days in the business where you really look back and say that's kind of the day where I thought, okay, this thing might work?
We're not there yet. I've got some pretty high goals and aspirations, so I push really hard. And we're working towards it, and we're getting there. But I don't think we're ever going to be perfect.
Sure.
But we're going to treat people fair and always take good care of them.
So, Brunaugh Construction and Design, what are some of the services that you offer?
Sure. We're a residential building contractor. So anything to do with your home or your building, I think we can help you with. That includes new construction, remodeling, additions, and insurance reconstruction.
And I think in talking to you, one of the things that seems important to you is developing a culture within your company. Talk a little bit about that culture.
Sure. One of our company values is being different than the competition. And there's a lot of stereotypes with my industry, and
Sure.
especially non-union residential construction, because anybody can put their name on a truck and be in business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to be different than everybody else, which means we're going to show up on time and we're going to do what we say we're going to do. But most of all, honesty and guaranteeing the price, guaranteeing the labor, and the customer service is huge for me.
Is there a project that stands out where you look back and say that's one that, it maybe was not going as well in the middle of it, but look back at the finished product and I'm really proud of that one?
Always the finished product. I think, at least for us, I always say nobody can guarantee a perfect project.
Sure.
There's going to be problems in construction or things that you have to deal with. It's how you deal with those issues that separates you from a bad company. And so always we get to the finished product. We never leave a project undone or walk away from anything. And so I don't really have one in particular, but it happens quite often where things don't go your way and you just have to make it right and use it as a chance to offer better customer service.
What has been one of the biggest challenges for you, or maybe biggest surprises that you even being around it your whole life that you didn't quite know about when you started the business?
One of the bigger surprises is no matter how much marketing or what you try to do, you still run into people that know you and they don't know what you do. They, still trying to work on that branding and being able to, when people see your logo driving down the road, they know that's what you do. Still trying to work on that.
Was it a challenge for you I know one of the things you and I have talked about is stepping back and working on the business instead of in the business. Has that been a challenge for you?
Definitely a challenge because of the unexpected. A project manager not panning out, and so you got to get back into it and
Right.
take care of the workload, and finding people that are right for your company that are representing you the right way. So you still are in and out, but I'm trying to do less in the business and working on the business, and that's day to day.
Sure. Well, Jason, thanks so much for coming on Business Over a Brew, and best of luck to you in the future.
No problem. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Business Over a Brew podcast. For more video of me drinking free beer with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders, visit AltonDailyNews.com and click on the podcast page. To enjoy a great meal with great food, great service, and great atmosphere, visit Great Rivers Tap and Grill inside the Best Western Premier in Alton. Check out some of their new menu items at GreatRiversTapandGrill.com.